I've officially become a manager and I've also acquired another department. So I have 3 employees that I manage. However, the employee I now manage was previously my coworker. Dun, dun, dun. This sucks. Managing someone who used to be your peer absolutely blows. It is the fucking worst. I struggle with him. This person didn't say that. I'm saying that. I struggle with him constantly going around me to his previous boss, which is my current boss, on projects instead of me. Both myself and my boss have reminded him that I'm his direct supervisor, but he continues to cut me out of the chain of command. What advice do you have to overcome this? All right, first of all, this is like the worst. I think there's 2 really big managerial challenges. One is when you're new in your career or fairly early in your career and you have to manage someone who's way older than you or more experienced than you. I think that's stressful and hard. And then the absolute worst, the big big enchilada of management problems is managing someone who used to be a peer. It is so hard. So I'm so glad you asked that question. My advice would be to be head on about it. I think you need to confront your employee. And I think you need to confront this person and say, hey, I've given you, I think you need to sit down, maybe confront isn't the right word, but I think you need to sit down with this person and say, hey, here's my vision. Like, this is what I want to do with this team. Here's my plan for how I want to get there. Here's what my ask is of you as part of this team. And then I would put the elephant in the room and say, here's what I need you to stop doing, right? You need to stop cutting me out of the communication. You need to stop end running me. I wouldn't make it like a lecture. I would make it like, this is the standard and this is your expectation. I think you've got to show that you have a vision for this group. You've got to show that you have a plan for the future. You have to show strength as the manager and the boss. But I also think you need to say, I have no tolerance for being cut out of the loop. I have no tolerance for the non-completion of projects. I just don't stand for, the shit you're doing right now. Say it nicer than that in better words. But I think you need to set the standard. And then the second thing is, I think you need to be ready to have consequences. Before you have this conversation with this person, I think it's worthwhile for you to meet with your boss and say, look, I can't be successful in this position if this person continues to undermine me. Obviously, what we're doing isn't working. If you're both reminding this person that he shouldn't be doing this and he still does it, it means that he thinks he's having success doing it. So what I would lay out for your boss is, here's what I'm going to tell this guy. I'm going to lay out my vision. I'm going to outline what my plan is, and I'm going to state what my expectation is of him. And then you need to say, like you would for any employee, if this person can't follow that, then that person has no role on my team. And then you put the person on a performance review, or you manage them out, or maybe you fire them if there's a reason to do so. I think the biggest thing here is you and all of your employees see this guy end running you or undercutting you, and everyone is making a judgment about it. So the longer you let it go on, the worse it is. The second thing is, I would just be straight up of like, why do you keep doing this? Like, I told you not to do it. Why are you doing it? And that conversation is going to be uncomfortable, and I think it's going to be tense. You need to maintain calmness and control, but I also wouldn't be afraid to call him on his bullshit, which is, why are you doing this? And then see what his answer is and get to the bottom of it, and maybe you can resolve and end up in the same place. But I think you've got to say, I have no tolerance for this, and this is not meeting my expectation. And then if the person doesn't meet your expectation, then you gotta manage the consequences. I would also put this in writing, because I think sometimes when you put things in writing, they tend to become more serious. Second question, what do you do when your boss gets on weekly calls with you and just complains about their job to you, and then you're left feeling like all you do is try to make them feel better? And then when you go try to find other mentors, they seem petty and jealous that you do that. Ugh, your boss sounds terrible. One, your boss should find some friends or some peers that they can talk to. Like, I think it's totally inappropriate. Like, obviously everyone has their moments. I obviously have my moments when I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to fucking kill this guy. I got to tell somebody about it. But I certainly don't tell everybody about it. And I think the worst thing of it all is usurping the time that you and your boss have to grow your business and to move your team forward and to help your career and to finish projects or elevate projects or whatever, to use them just to complain. So I think in this case, you have a manager who's kind of insecure, who seems pretty negative, who can be unprofessional. That's probably not a great recipe for a great manager over time. So you may want to think about how successful you're going to be in this position long term. The second thing is everybody should have mentors. Everyone should be connected to a lot of different people inside of a company and to learn from all of those people. And if your manager is so insecure that they don't want you to be mentored or supported by other people, that's a really bad sign. In general, and going well beyond your mentorship. So I think in this case, I would try to delicately or lightly kind of interrupt the usual flow of things by saying, hey, on this week's call, can we go through these 5 things that I'm working on? I really need some help with blah, 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 or whatever it may be. I think if you could start the call and set the tone for the call and keep the length of the call just short enough so it's just focused on those things, maybe you can sidestep some of the complaining. I think the second thing is if you want things to be better from, your manager supporting you, having other mentors, I would just say like, hey, one of the things I'm going to do is talk to this person, this person, this person, because I'd really like to learn more about blah, 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 blah. And I think this person has some interesting insights. And I just wanted to make sure you were aware that I'm going to do that. And then I think the third thing is for you really to think about your relationship with this manager and this manager in general. And if the right spot for you might be with a different manager or on a different team, or, this sounds dramatic or drastic, maybe at a different company. But in general, I think your manager really, really, really matters. And if you have a manager that's petty and is just dumping their shit on you or just complaining all the time, that's not a great environment for you. And at the end of the day, you've just got to worry about your career. Last one. I've been offered the CEO position at my company, but it's contingent on many things, such as securing a large funding round, laying off several people, and getting through the review process with my peers and current direct reports. Currently, I'm the COO. The comp is also pretty small and not much different than what I'm making now as the COO. Am I crazy to turn down the offer and remain COO? Yes, you're crazy. You should take this opportunity. Fuck it. Get the CEO title. Take the step up. Make the move. You may only want to be a CEO there for a year. Or maybe, I wouldn't recommend shorter than that, but I wouldn't say no to the opportunity. I think, because then ultimately it sounds like you work for a fairly small company. This is a good chance for you to step up. It sounds like you're dealing with the same amount of problems that you would be dealing with anyways if you stayed in the COO role. But if you stay in the COO role, then you're going to get a boss to deal with, right? Which is man, maybe the company doesn't need a CEO and a COO. So I would be thinking about what you would do in this CEO role. I would be focused on, okay, sure, it's contingent on these number of things. I'd be thinking about what your vision is for the role, what you think you can do in the role, what you would need to be successful in the role, all that kind of stuff. I also feel like these are kind of big things. Like the laying off people isn't a big factor, but making it through the review process and securing a big funding round, those are massive, massive ifs. So the one thing I would say is I would kind of just ride this one out. I would certainly keep my hat in the ring. I would not turn it down to stay COO, but it sounds like this is a big if on you getting the position in the first place. So I would play it through. And then I would think about, depending on what happens, maybe the funding comes through and the layoff happens and all your peers agree and it's great. Voila, you're like a CEO. Or maybe it doesn't happen and you're the COO anyways, which is the job you have today. And it's kind of no harm, no foul. Although I bet if you don't make it through that process, you'll want to think about going to be a CEO somewhere else. So long story short, go be a CEO.